Howdy, y'all. Welcome to the Rainbow Crossing Podcast, a podcast where Gen X and Gen Z discuss life's challenges and how we face them as queer people. We have these open conversations to foster a sense of community through different perspectives. My name is Julio Guzman, and with me is someone equally as annoying as myself, my roommate.
Daniel, equally as annoying as yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I thought...
I couldn't insult you without insulting me as well.
Right. You know, your sister was just here, and I thought you were going to say equally as amazing as your sister, as amazing as family.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
that great.
Maybe I confused the words of annoying.
Yeah.
They both have A's.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the word that I was looking for, but annoying just came to my mind.
It's odd that's the first thing that came to your mind.
But
But
amazing.
yeah. Yeah. And you didn't even see me most of yesterday, and I know how sad you must have been.
So I'm making up for it.
Yeah.
I'm making up for the bullying right now.
You do that also with your sister when she comes to visit.
I have to let it all out. It's,
Yeah.
it's how I show love. It's not my fault. I was raised by being bullied.
Yeah.
My sisters would bully me with love, and that's how I am.
And here we are.
If I'm not mean to you,
It means you don't really like somebody if you're not a little mean to them, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But anyways, back to being annoying.
Yeah. You know, being annoying, I got to have a really fun Friday night
I know. I'm
without
just
you.
jealous. That's why I'm calling you annoying.
I know.
But tell us about your weekend. What did you do this weekend?
One of my best friends, David, and I went to Houston.
Mm-hmm.
It's about a 2.5 hour drive from here, and saw a couple of friends. And then we went to an event at one of the gay clubs there. They were hosting two of the current season Drag Race queens, Lexi Love and Jules Sparkles. Woo. And it was hosted by a former RuPaul's Drag Race star, Mistress Isabel Brooks. Houston is her hometown,
yeah.
so that's her home bar, I believe, South Beach, Houston. That's
a night of entertainment right there.
Oh.
Those three on the lineup.
That's all you need. But then there were also some amazing Houston queens, local talented queens that were there. Just amazing, all of them. Packed. The place was packed, and they were charging minimum $20 to get in the door. So it was a significant crowd, and it really showed how beloved, particularly Lexi. Jules is also beloved, but the crowd really went wild when Lexi took the stage. So David and I got meet and greet tickets. As you know, Lexi and I have become friends over the last several weeks, and I have her number, but I didn't text her in advance because I just wanted to surprise her. And then I started thinking about it. She has met a lot of people over these last several weeks.
Every day.
Every day, every weekend, she's
100
at a
new
club,
faces.
and
Yeah.
I meet all these meet and greets, and everybody's surrounding her, and it's a lot going on. And I started thinking, it's like, what if she doesn't remember me? We spent like 8-10 hours together one night, and like we went hard all night, but was that enough to remember me?
I would say so.
Yeah, you're right.
I would say so.
So when I got in line, it was all three of the queens, Jules, Mistress, and Lexi. And Jules like immediately greeted me, and I gave her a quick hug because I was trying to catch Lexi's line of sight. And she saw me, and her jaw dropped, and she was like, "Oh my God!"
She was like,
That guy is here.
Daniel.
I don't know if she remembered my name off the top of her head, and that's fine. But she knew exactly who I was,
of
and
course.
gave me an embrace, and was just so sweet. And I would have loved to have spent more time with her, but she was obviously a hot commodity there. Saw her a little bit after the show. We chatted for just a minute, but the crowd swarmed on her immediately afterwards. Everybody wanted a selfie. She wanted to chill after a minute because they worked hard for those
bet.
dollars.
The tour life is hard. The tour life is hard, going from city to city, meeting a lot of people. And then obviously meeting your fans is great, but sometimes you just want moments to just have fun as well.
I texted her the next morning, relatively early, and I said, "Hey, I don't know what your schedule's like. Obviously, I didn't give you any advance warning. If you're free and you want to grab some brunch or something before we head back to Austin, just let me know." And she texted me back at like 10, and she was like, "They have me going nonstop. I am already at my gate at the airport." And the show went until like 2 a.m., and I'm sure she didn't get home before 4. So It's
girl,
got to be exhausting.
The community doesn't sleep.
No.
The community goes bus, next bus, plane, another plane, another club. Mm-hmm. And then they're there.
Exactly.
And then they do it again.
Exactly.
Maybe they close their eyes for about 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 if you're lucky.
Yeah.
And then back to it.
Right. You got to power through. Mm-hmm. But she was wonderful. She did a great job. The crowd ate her up, and excited to see when she comes to Austin in April.
Speaking of eating her up, well, that sounds a little bit out of my forte. But so as we're watching Drag Race this season, there's a term that the girlies are saying, Miss Piggy, Miss Piggy, you know, referring to someone eating, not like eating physically, but like they ate that runway.
Right.
They ate their whatever they just did. If they put someone in their place, they ate that. You know how kids are saying that, but now they're saying Miss Piggy added to it.
Yes. Not just I ate or she ate, but just calling her Miss Piggy.
But also Miss Piggy's kind of iconic, as in like Kermit's Miss Piggy.
Yeah. This is definitely an icon or I can't, right?
For sure,
as
Miss
far
Piggy,
as Miss Piggy an iconic term for queens, or is it an I can't moment?
Well, it depends. I think it all depends on the person you're saying it to. 'Cause if you're looking at someone like my friend the other day, I was like, okay, Miss Piggy. And they're like, what'd you call me? And I'm like, no. I'm not like calling you like there's a problem with whatever. I'm just saying like you ate that. Like, and then they returned it on me while I was actually eating because I devoured all my food and they call me Miss Piggy. I'm like, see, I wouldn't get offended by that. But some other people might get offended by that. But I'm a stan. I think I con for Miss Piggy.
You do? I'm an original Muppets stan.
Sure.
Like I was around when they first premiered the Muppet Show in the late 70s, and Miss Piggy is iconic. Miss Piggy the Muppet is iconic. She's also very opinionated and loud and in your
Miss Piggy,
face.
she ate that. She ate that.
So the term fits very much with what drag queens, how drag queens are using it. However, I don't think it's been out there long enough for people to understand what it is, because Miss Piggy could either mean, oh, you're being obnoxious, or it could be, oh, maybe you're eating a little too much.
It's a very thin line. So it really just depends who you're saying it to, in my opinion.
Agreed.
But I mean, I'm not just going to call everybody Miss Piggy.
Please don't.
That would get you into a lot of trouble.
Please don't.
It could be fun in some way.
Yeah.
I'm not shaming you. And if I'm eating a lot physically and whatever, you can call me Miss Piggy. I won't get offended.
Yeah. Well.
But not everyone will.
You're bulking, though, so you're good.
I have to now.
Yeah.
Especially after this week.
Yeah. Which we'll get to in a minute. But yes. But, speaking of icons, let's talk about some icons of the week. Like, do you have an icon of the week?
I do have an icon for the week. Her name is Britt, not Brittany, Britt. And her Instagram handle, I'm not sure if she wants me saying this, but it's open. Why not?
Yeah.
Britt.no.nee, as in Britt, no knee.
Okay.
And then she's an icon. In my opinion, she's just a normal person from Wyoming, and she called her senators, and there was this council meeting. And during that meeting, the chairman gave the floor to her, and it was off on a Zoom call. And then she goes, "Thank you, Madam Chairman." And then she just continues to speak, and it was obviously a man speaking. And he goes, "Oh, it's Mr. Chairman." And then she goes, "Well, since you said that we can't choose our pronouns and we can't basically say that our pronouns are what we choose and push that on someone for a narrative, then I can call you whatever I want. So anyway, Madam Chairman," and then she basically just keeps going, something like that. It was similar to that, but she basically weaved a way around what is into legislation and is now basically calling her senators ma'am, because they're like, well, you got to call me this. And, well, you just made it illegal for you to tell me your chosen pronouns, so I'm going to call you whatever I want. And more of that, please.
Yes.
More of calling the man who will be offended by whatever you call them that's not a man, and let's make them irk a little bit. Let's start doing more things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's awesome that people are thinking outside of the box with this and finding a way to use this stuff against the people, because it's absurd that we have to even do this. When I moved away from home at 25, my parents had always called me Dan. So everybody called me Dan throughout my whole life. I didn't want to be called that. I wanted to be Daniel.
I can't even imagine calling you Dan. That sounds so
not
weird.
good.
Like, you saying that to me right now, I'm like, oh, I don't even.
Yeah.
That would be so weird for someone to be like, "Hey, Dan," and talking about you. I'd be like, "Who the fuck are they talking to?"
Yeah. So I decided I wanted to be Daniel. And I mean, that's your name. That is my name. But I mean, what if I wanted to be called some kind of nickname or whatever?
sure.
You're addressing me, and I get to determine how I want to be addressed.
Definitely.
And so the fact that it's now being turned against them is amazing, and good for her for pointing that out. And we need more of that
For
energy.
sure. And then in the comments, someone was like, "Why don't we call Trump Madam President and see how he feels?"
Well, a lot of people are calling him vice president right now because of the Elon situation, which is also amazing.
And it's also basically facts. Like, how is he leading in a meeting in your Oval Office while you're just sitting there, saying nothing? That's kind of awkward.
While his child is telling you you're not the president.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you have any icons of the week?
There was a great icon this week, another great icon. People are standing up right now, and we're seeing a lot of that, which is amazing. And Maine's governor is another example. I know you saw the clip of Trump at the White House, and he was speaking on the executive order that he signed about not allowing trans women in men's sports. And he knew that the Maine governor was not going to comply, and he called her out during the press conference, of all places. She said, "No, I'm not going to do it." And then he proceeded to say, "Well, you're not going to get any federal funds," which is just absurd. Like, any federal funds for your state?
So because she's not anti-trans, you're going to cut all her funding?
Right.
Make it make sense.
Right. And she said, her response was, "I'll see you in court," which is where he's going to find himself frequently these days regarding his executive orders. So many judges have blocked them. So many organizations are suing him for all of these executive orders that he is throwing out there, which I think is obvious that was going to happen because he and his team were pushing the boundaries of what the president has the power to do. So it's great to hear people stand up to him and say, especially like in his house, in the White House, where he is in theory in control of the situation, "I'll see you in court." Good for her. What a bold, brave woman.
Icon.
And she's just standing up for her constituents.
It's interesting how most people these days who are standing up are women.
Yeah.
Who's making an impact here? Women.
Yeah. There's so much going on in that arena. And unfortunately, some is positive, a lot is negative. But I do think we're seeing a little more in the positive light these days. But I did want to talk about a few of the clouds and color moments this week. The one in particular that I think has everybody talking is that "Long live the king" moment. That comment was in regards to the New York's congestion pricing problems, which a lot of New Yorkers were not in favor of. And so I think he did that. He was interfering because he thought it would be a popular move. But people by and large are not supportive of Trump's interference, and certainly not of that line that he said, because obviously we are not in a monarchy.
And you are not a king, that's for sure.
And he is certainly not a king. And, the Republican Party is supposed to be all about small government. It is the excuse that is given for the dismantling of some of these oversight programs that they're trying to take apart right now, is because they want the states to run it. Yet, when it doesn't go in their favor, or when they think they have an opportunity to come out on top, they're going to get involved anyway. So it's just very contrary to everything that not only the Republican Party, but the U.S. really stands for. So what made it even worse, however, we are used to Trump saying ridiculous things, making insane comments and statements, and thinking that he has more authority than he actually does. And I think he often just believes that he does have these things. I know he's a very bold person, but I think he's also a very ignorant person.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing. But then the White House, the official White House social media accounts, put that out on their platforms. They quoted the "Long live the king" and did the photo that kind of looked like a Time magazine, and he had a crown on and everything. I just can't imagine whoever is responsible for the social media, the marketing team, the PR team, whoever is ultimately responsible for that actually approved that. It's just such an unprofessional thing to put out, and it's embarrassing that's what our leadership looks like right now.
Yeah, I've been so embarrassed of our country for like the past.
I mean,
Since I've been able to vote,
it's been a while.
I guess.
I get it. I get it. I'm sure many of our viewers, our listeners can relate to this. When you go to other countries, especially if you're going with friends, during the first Trump term, I had a conversation with a friend and we're like, where should we tell them we're from? Like, should we just say we're from Canada? Then sometimes we're like, we'll tell them we're from the U.S., but we're not going to tell them we're from Texas. We'll tell them we're from California, or like because it's just so embarrassing the way many people in our state, many leaders in this country, how they act. So,
I mean, shit. I'll talk shit with the foreigners.
well, and that's what it all. We don't want to be immediately shunned by them, but if we get into it, we're like, yeah, we're on board with you guys.
I'm on your side.
Yeah, exactly. So here's one that is really sad to me. You know that I'm a big Disney fan. Mm-hmm. We've been to Disneyland together, and I didn't go on it because I hate free fall rides. But the Guardians of the Galaxy,
I love that ride. It was so much fun.
Yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy. It used to be Tower of Terror. It's the drop ride, and that ride, as in many other rides, there's a moment where there's a camera and they take your photo. Then you can download it on the app or whatever later. And I haven't seen many people talk about this, but recently, I think in just the last week or so, there was, during that ride, a photo was taken, and 3 girls were giving the Sig Heil salute, which, has come back around thanks to Elon.
Yeah. How old did they look?
It's really hard, because you're in the dark and it's really hard to tell. But it looked like they were young women. I wouldn't say that they were past mid-20s. Okay. I don't know that they were teens, but they were younger girls. And you're doing this salute that obviously carries a certain connotation with it. And, I feel bad for anybody who wanted their picture from that.
Yeah, and then that's just in the background.
Yeah, you're not going to use that photo because that's offensive. I think that younger people just don't understand the true meaning behind all of that. Maybe they think it symbolizes their party's movement at the moment. Maybe they do understand that is just this racist, white power, white nationalist gesture.
I'm getting young energy from this. It's giving me like back when I was in high school and like the Trumpies would be straight. I mean, they were more vocal back then at the very beginning. Now there's people that are like getting a little bit more distant from it that I've been noticing. But when I was in high school, it was all up in your face.
Yeah.
And just very ignorant and very out of touch with anybody who was different from them. And I feel like they're living in that bubble at the moment in regards to doing those types of things. Number one, out in public, but you thinking that it's a joke and it's funny. It's one, childish. So I'm going to assume that these 3 girls are children and young and don't know what they're doing.
That's what I would hope.
But then we see adult grown men doing that on TV in front of everybody. So, well, who knows?
I mean, I think the adult grown men do know what it is. I want to think that these girls don't understand the weight that carries. I want to think that people aren't that filled with hate for someone who's different from them. I want to think that. I'm not sure that that's the case.
Well, if you know these 3 girls, call them out, check them. Don't go off on them because they look pretty young, but teach them something for sure. I'm not saying ruin their lives because that's not fair to everyone and everyone has a moment to grow, but definitely get a hold of them and tell them something. Yeah. Let them know that what they did isn't okay.
Right. As everyone in this party, they've been empowered by Trump to go down this path of racist rhetoric.
It's their brand.
Yeah, absolutely it is. Unfortunately, it leads to not just these moments where they're in a dark room and they're going to do it and they think they're probably going to get away with it, but it can lead to some serious impacts. And here's another story that I haven't really heard a lot about, and I'm not sure if you have even heard about this. We have not talked about this prior to right now. Jocelyn Rojo
I've seen
Carranza. 11-year-old died on February 8th after attempting suicide after she was bullied at school, with students telling her, quote, they were going to call immigration so they could take her parents away and she would be left alone, according to her mother.
Yeah. That hits hard. Like, even thinking about it and like seeing her pictures, like that, when I saw it, it made me very emotional. I'm getting emotional right now just like thinking of her, because she just looked like one of the sweetest little girls ever, and her energy seems so beautiful and like powerful in all her videos, and it reminds me of my family. So it's hard to see a young woman, a young little girl, taking her life just based off of the idea that her classmates are going to ruin her life in regards to getting rid of her family and separating her from her family, and they won't be able to see her ever again. And she thought that it was better for her to just leave and not deal with it than the idea of getting separated overall.
Yeah.
For a child to think that suicide is the option over separation from your family, like, why is she having to pick between those two things just to feel peace? It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And I mean, bullying's been a thing for the very longest time, and it's getting more and more in your face as things are starting to change. And I'm seeing hopefully it gets better, but to get better, it has to get worse. But we need to stop letting things like this happen.
Yeah.
And threatening someone who is a child, even though that there's kids just bantering, like, we need to do better as adults.
Well, children mimic what they hear, and
Of course,
primarily from
of
their
course.
parents. So I'm sure that these children, at least the ringleaders, I'm sure they heard it from their parents. And I think at the end of the day, I think even people who want illegals to be deported, I don't think most of them necessarily want them to die.
No.
Obviously, their decisions for wanting them to leave are very short-sighted, and they really don't understand the impact that has not only on the individuals but on our country as a whole. There's all these layers involved with that, but they certainly aren't thinking about the individual people and the children who are involved, the children who we don't even know what this family status actually is
At all. It's just people racial profiling, and
Exactly.
even kids doing it and just thinking that that's okay. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying that the kids are in the wrong. Obviously, kids will say the most craziest things and do things that they just are seeing and experiencing. But some kids joke, and they might not know that the jokes go too far. And if people in our school would actually experience ICE coming in there and separating kids, they would see how actually traumatizing and scary this is, and they would not wish that upon anybody. They're just so out of touch with reality and what's in front of them that they can say something like that jokingly and think that it has no heaviness to it. But in reality, if they saw what that really looked like, they would all be scarred.
Yeah. Well, it all goes back to empathy. At that age, you can't relate to other people's trials and tribulations. As a white kid, I couldn't at 11 relate to what you were going through at 11 in that regard. There's just no way I could do it until you actually are at least a witness to part of those trials and tribulations. And these kids are now witness to it. There has to be some kind of weight, I would hope, on their shoulders as a result of this girl committing suicide. And I don't want it to scar these kids for the rest of their lives, but if they're halfway decent people, they will think about this every day for the rest of their lives. And I hope it puts them on a better path to being kinder, to thinking about how their words affect other people, because your words have an impact on other people. Your actions do, but man, words at that age, it has destroyed lives.
1,000%. I mean, when I was a kid, words meant everything to me.
Yeah.
For me, it was words before actions. Like, you would say something, my feelings would get hurt, or you would say something that would just make you happy. It's that one thing that changes your mindset. Words change your mindset when you're younger. Actions can as well, but words do it first before actions do. Now, as an adult, I'm more of an actions kind of guy. I want to see things happen before I believe what you're saying, because a lot of people will talk and not follow through. But when you're younger, there's a lot more emphasis on words than there is action.
Right.
Unless you're being disciplined and spanked, but that usually comes afterwards.
Yeah.
You're already scared at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, despite a few of these things that feel just really heavy and negative, I think we are seeing a corner being turned right now with a lot of the country. These town hall meetings that are happening across the country in red districts, in Republican-led districts, in Georgia, Wisconsin, California, Oregon. There are angry crowds attending these town hall meetings. And they're angry about Musk. They're angry about the budget cuts. They're angry about this indiscriminate firing of federal employees. And they're speaking out about it. And these are areas that voted for Donald Trump largely. And it's great to see people speaking out and not putting up with a lot of the BS that's coming out of these Republican representatives' mouths as they're trying to defend or trying to steer the conversation in a different direction about how great Donald Trump is or how great these new executive orders or whatever the case is that's happening right now. People are standing up for what they know is right and wrong. And
a lot of they're learning is right.
A lot of it is because now it's affecting them personally.
Yeah.
You know, we're seeing all of these people losing their jobs, and a lot of them are Republicans who are losing their jobs. And we're seeing people post on their social platforms, Donald Trump, I'm one of the good ones. I voted for you. I've worked hard. I didn't deserve this firing. You know, please take a closer look. And
let me tell you something. He's not even looking at whatever you're reaching out from. He doesn't even care about you. He doesn't even know your name.
No. Well, it's impossible to go in and clean house and do it in an effective and efficient manner. And, you know, the Republican Party, Elon Musk has even said they're using the chainsaw effect. They're just slicing through and destroying it and maybe starting from scratch. I don't think that's even the case. I think they just want to demolish and put into place whatever, you know, benefits them the most. A lot of these government agencies that oversee things are in Elon's way of making more money.
Yeah.
So it's just good to see that people are standing up, even if it's just because it's about me at this point, as opposed to it being about us. Whatever it takes for them to stand up, and maybe now they're going to get a little bit of empathy and to be able to think about how this affects more than just me. This is affecting a lot of people. So hopefully we're getting there.
Well, it is getting there. If you think about it, if they're now thinking about the point of, wow, this is affecting me, you are a part of us. So like eventually you will realize that we are all one and the same and we're all experiencing the same thing. So it goes less from, oh, I don't have this. And now it's like, oh, wait, you don't have this either. We all don't have this at the same point.
Yeah.
So let's start working together and actually getting the things done side by side instead of fighting one another.
Right. And this is a long journey. We're only a month into this.
We are a month
situation.
It's ridiculous. It's crazy.
We've got almost 4 years to go at this point, and
it feels unreal. Like this doesn't feel like real life.
No, it doesn't. But we've got to start preparing for the fact that we are in for the long haul here.
Yeah.
And as I was thinking about that this week, I was relating it to your recent experience.
Oh my God, are you saying I inspired you?
I really don't want to say that.
Say it.
You served as a source of inspiration for me as I was thinking about this.
I'll take it.
So we're recording this on Sunday. Last Sunday, we were up early. I was there as a supporter along with several of your friends. You were there
as a marathon,
running a marathon.
Yeah.
Running your first ever marathon.
First full marathon. I've done the half, but this was my first full.
Yes.
And although I was committing to it for a while, I didn't pull the trigger until the 14th of February, which the race was on the 16th. So,
yes.
And even then, before that, I didn't start training till 2 weeks before. Like a month out, I was like, yeah, I'm going to run the marathon. I'm going to run the marathon. Got me some shoes, and I was like, all right, that's the first thing. And I didn't train. I didn't practice. I was still working out, and obviously I'm physically fit, and I work out every single week, but running's a whole different game.
Yeah.
Although I have ran most of my life, so that was just in the back of my mind.
I was going to say, you not preparing for the race is a little contrary to what we're going to talk about, but I think it's very important that we establish the fact that you are a runner. You have run since high school.
For sure. I mean, I was competing in high school in the regional level, always placing, ran varsity all 4 years. Even in junior high, I was placing in district. And running long distance runs in my family, and I'm really good at running.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even in high school, my senior year, I wasn't going to do cross country, and my coach was like, please do cross country. He was like, it's your last year. He was like, you don't even have to come to the practices. He was like, come to one practice a week and then you'll just compete. And I'm like, fine, I can do that. It's just one practice a week. I'm down. And that was still enough for me to like go to district and all that, just because it's running is a mental game. It is a mind game. Once you get that flow of your breath and your mind and your heartbeat and the flow of your pace, it's a machine at that point, and you just keep fueling that machine.
Right. With a marathon in particular, that's 26.2 miles, right?
And I would never recommend someone to not train for a marathon. That's not what I'm saying.
No.
I'm a coach, and you definitely need to train for a marathon.
Right. And you went into it very physically fit. You went in having run regularly, maybe not having run 26 miles in preparation for this.
I ran 8 miles 2 weeks out. The week before I ran 10 miles, and that was the most I ran. I think I ran one more that was like 6 miles. And then I was like, okay, we're going to run it in a week from now.
Yeah.
Took a week off, stretched that whole 5 days before. Didn't work out at all, just stretched nonstop, and then
you also bought the right equipment. You had the shoes, you had all the gear on you, the right shirt, and you dressed for the weather.
And it was cold.
It was very cold.
It was 36 degrees when we got in that line to run.
Yes.
And the warmest it got was 55 degrees that day.
Right.
But I will say, in my opinion, it was the perfect weather for running, because if it was any hotter, it would probably be a little bit more challenging for sure.
Which is why they do it in February for sure. Absolutely. But you laid the groundwork for a successful race. You could have done a little more.
Yes. I also wasn't going at this one to compete and at a specific time. If I was doing that for specific goals, I would have trained more.
Yeah.
But in my mindset, I was like, I just want to complete it. Whether I start walking at some point, whether I do a light jog, I just want to complete these 26 miles to see if I am capable of doing it. And I didn't stop.
I was going to say, you never walked.
I ran the whole way. I ran the whole way. There was moments that were challenging, but I found ways to get through it while in the middle of the race. And can talk more about that as we flow through this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Because what I want to talk about is similar to how a marathon runner has to prepare for and actually compete in a marathon race. Like, that's where we're at, not just for the next 4 years. That's just life in general. We're running a marathon out here.
It's how you endure life.
And it is.
After this marathon, we've realized that running is for everyone.
It is.
Because the crowd, the diversity of people.
Absolutely. Ages, races, size,
heights.
Skinny to muscular to it.
All types of body types.
It astounded me how many different types of people were out there. Absolutely.
And they were all running it at their own pace.
Yes.
But they were all in that field and in that moment and in that vibe. And maybe they all took different approaches of training. But it is for everyone. And that just shows the testimony that anyone is capable of doing anything. If you really just put your mind to it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's life. Like, we're all in it. We're all in this race of life. And like, how do we endure? How do we go the distance, especially during trying times when, these next 4 years feel like they're going to be really trying times for us.
The number one thing, we're going to go down the list, but the number one is mindset. It is all mindset. Easier said than done, but it is practice. You practice things. You practice telling yourself that you can. You practice telling yourself that, oh, maybe what I'm feeling is temporary, and we're going to get past it. And you think of the ways to get past it.
Life and a race is filled with fear and self-doubt. I'm sure there were probably moments, maybe not you, because you're just not that kind of person, but I'm sure there were a ton of people out there who were nervous about the race, about, can I do this? Can I do 26 miles?
Oh, I mean, that was my mindset the day before. For sure, I was staying calm, but in my mindset, I was like, I barely practiced. I barely ran anything. I'm like, can I complete 26 miles? And after that, I was like, okay, you know what? My goal is to just finish it. I was like, that's going to look completely different from my mindset right now. My mindset right now is when I start, see how I feel, and just listen to myself the whole way. And that's kind of what you have to do in life. You have to realign with yourself in the heat of the moment of what's going on and adjust to it to endure where you're going.
Yeah. The self-doubt, the fear, the questioning of your abilities, that's often the bigger obstacle than actually facing the race itself. And if you can get past that, if you can stamp down your fears and just say, wait a second, like, let's not make this a bigger deal than it actually is. I'm just going to listen to myself and go with the flow.
Correct. And what's beautiful about this analogy with life and the marathon is that what makes it easier is the people and the people you're around and who you're doing it with. And that is the second part, in my opinion, of how to endure things. Because in the marathon, at times while I was running it, I was like, can I do this? And then I would see people with signs, strangers who I don't even know, just cheering you on and high-fiving you, and like a bunch of people throughout the whole course giving you oranges or peanut butter jelly sandwich slices or bananas as you're running, or pickles, whatever. I mean, there were some people that were giving out shots, and I was like, oh my God, you're a little crazy. And people would run up to them, get some Tito's or whatever. Someone would even have bottles, and they would be pouring it down. And
Oh my
runners
gosh.
would go up to them and like get it and then keep running. I'm like, I'll take the peanut butter jelly sandwich, but I'm not drinking any alcohol. It's all about the journey with the people that you're doing it with.
Yeah.
And for some people, that might be a more fun route. This might just be an experience for them where they're like, I'm just going to go about this as a fun little race with my friends where we're drinking on the side and just walking at times and chatting. And that's what you made it however you wanted to, but you got to that journey and that goal with that same mindset of doing it, you know?
Which is so great. I mean, life is what you make of it, and a marathon is what you make of it. And as some, you know, I was out there the whole time, and I got to witness all of the witnesses along the way. And I had never been to a marathon before. Of course, I've seen coverage and everything, but experiencing it in the moment and seeing all of these people who are supporting their friends and their family. And I got emotional just being out there because there's just so much love and community in this moment.
After I finished it, I was like, this is what pride is supposed to feel like.
Yeah.
In regards to like the people around you, the community. And don't get me wrong, there's some great things about pride, but like this just felt like full on love and support without any question. And everyone looked completely different.
Absolutely.
Which was what pride is supposed to be, you know?
It's how can I lift you up? Like, you're running the race right now. I got it easy. What can I do to lift you up a little bit? And you were running with other people, and I'm sure there were moments where somebody helped spur you along. I know you started the race with a coworker.
Yeah, I started with my friend, and he was training a little bit longer than I, so I was like, you know what? He's a solid person to stick with at the beginning, see what my pace is like. And by mile 8, I was like, I want to see if I can go a little bit faster. No tea, no shade to my coworker, but I was like, if I keep this pace, it's going to take me a long time to finish. So I'm just going to speed it up and let the vibes carry me. And I finished those 26 miles in 4 hours and 20 minutes.
420. It's a sign.
It's a sign. I don't make the rules. The universe just brings it to me. But I was very impressed with myself. And everyone who I told that I only trained 2 weeks was very shocked, because most people who run a marathon, they're like, oh, I want to do like a sub 4, which is a 4 hours for those. And some people can exceed that and do way better. But I was like, oh, let me aim for 4. And I was super happy with 420, because when I barely practice, and if people who have been training aim for 4, I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I know a 4 is doable next time if I do want to do that.
100%.
But it was just my own flow. And just like the marathon, you got to go at your own flow, but also embrace what's around you and take it for what it is, because it'll help you get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're out there, you're experiencing nature. It was a beautiful day. It was cold, but there was so much wonderful things to take in: the people, the environment, and you got to see a few of your friends along the way too.
I mean, the first time when I ran the half, no one showed up. I did that alone, and I still had a great time. But I learned a lot about myself at that moment. That was 2 years ago, and I was like, wow. I feel like I am accomplishing things, but I'm not getting the support that I need from the ones that I love. Or in the moments that I am accomplishing these things, there's no one to witness it. And it feels less valuable, even though it's super valuable to me. It has less of an impact in a way. But this time, there were so many of my friends there, and I loved it. And it at that halfway point where I was normally finishing that first time I ran it, that half marathon, because that's where I ran into y'all, at that halfway point at 13 miles, that was the exact boost that I needed to see my friends just cheering for me. It made me so warm and happy.
I caught it on video. Your face when you saw us, because we were like yelling and trying to flag you down.
In the zone.
You were zoned
when
in.
I'm working out or running, I'm in the zone.
Yeah.
Like, it's very hard for me to.
But when you caught us, your face just lit up. And I know that you knew that we were going to be there.
Yeah.
But to see us, I felt like you just got this energy from it. And it was worth all of it. It was wonderful.
No, I loved it. It was a great experience. And I learned so much about myself in that journey itself.
I have to say that part of becoming a successful marathon runner is probably consistency. Mm-hmm. And you know, you talk about maybe not being as consistent, but your whole life you've been consistent with working out and training and running.
Although I wasn't consistent in the training for this, I'm still consistently training period.
Which allowed you to be as successful
For
as
sure.
you were.
Yes.
And that's just life in general, just being consistent and showing up when it's not easy. Because you had relatively good weather, but sometimes it's rainy during these things, and sometimes it's cold as it was. And you just got to keep showing up.
Yeah.
If you want to finish the race, you have to be consistent.
Yeah, at mile 20, that's when I really started to rethink life. I was like, by the way, the whole time while I was running, my endurance felt fine. My breathing was great. But by mile 20, that's when my legs started to cramping.
Yeah.
And I could feel my quads just getting tighter and tighter and tighter as I'm pounding onto the ground. I'm like, oh no, this is going to be really bad. And I was like, you know what? Let me slow down for a little bit. Let me see if I just need to walk and like rub it out some. As I started slowing down, it started getting tighter. And I'm like, no,
That's not the
happening.
answer.
That's not the answer. So I sped up actually,
Yeah.
and I kept going and I kept my pace. And I was like, you know what? Let me just speed up a little bit and see if it goes away. And me pushing through that moment of discomfort and all that made it go away.
Yeah.
And was I still in pain? Of course, but I wasn't as pain as I was to begin with because I just kept going. I kept going, and honestly, moving a little bit faster made that cramp just disappear.
Yeah. Well, you listened to your body. You tried one way, you tried another way, and you worked your way out of it. Obviously, there are times when runners do have to stop.
Oh, for sure.
But you figured it out, and you found a way to be consistent throughout, and you worked your way through it. Mm-hmm. I also think that probably one of the biggest things that even if you're not a runner, you have to pace yourself. Like, you cannot start right out of the gate speeding down because, you may take the lead by mile 5, but where are you going to be at mile 20?
Yep.
And I'm sure there are a lot of people who maybe just in the heat of the moment and the excitement of the day, like took off running. And I wonder if they burned through. Unless they are an experienced marathon runner, a lot of them probably burned out before the end. And that's life. Like, we have to pace ourselves. Like, life, if we're lucky enough, we got 70, 80, 90 years to go. Mm-hmm. And like I gotta take it one day at a time. I can't act like I'm a 25-year-old gay boy out there. Like, and I feel like a lot of gay guys do that. Like, we go full throttle because we get a little taste of independence and we're so used to being in the closet. And so we feel like we've got to do everything and get a taste of everything, and just take it slow. Life is there for you to enjoy, certainly. But if you don't pace yourself, you're going to regret it one day.
Mm-hmm. I totally get it. Yeah, I mean, that is factual. I noticed that a lot of my problems started to go away once I started to slow down. Because, I mean, since birth, I was balls to the wall, always going as well. And for better or worse, we've had our problems. Not we, but like myself and going balls to the wall. And after slowing down and pacing myself and knowing that if it's meant to be, it'll be meant to be. And that time, there is no limit on time if you really think about it, and you just embrace it for what it is. It'll all work out the way it needs to.
I have to say, you have slowed down in the last year or two, maybe. And I've noticed a distinctive slowdown, and it's not like you just slammed on the brakes, but there's been a shift in your life. And I feel like once you did that, there were a lot of blessings that started coming your way. And I don't know if that was just coincidental or if it's that you actually now you had time to take advantage of the blessings that were always around you, but maybe you just didn't see them. And I just feel like that's life in general. Pace yourself, take time to take care of yourself, certainly, and the good stuff is going to find you.
And if you have never done any running event or have gone to one, you should check it out. It's the energy there. You're gonna at least take away something from it. And if you haven't participated, you can participate at something as small as a 5K, which is 3.2 miles. It might sound a little crazy for some people, but you can walk it.
You can walk it.
You can jog it. You can strut it. You can do whatever you want and complete it, and get the encouragement from all the people around you and all the vibes, and take something from it that might uplift you and make you lead life with a different sense of direction.
Yeah. It's not only like this healthy attitude, it's this attitude of community.
For sure.
Like I really didn't understand.
The runners community is such a great community. It's probably up there in like, do I like it more than the gay community? I might like it more than the gay community, if I'm being honest. Not that I hate myself or the people around me, but it's just the energy. It seems more like less of a we care who you are and more of we love you for who you are and what you're doing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. One last note to compare marathons to life in general. Small victories lead to a big win.
For sure.
And you have to take it one step at a time. And I don't know how you did it, but I take it mile by mile.
For sure.
I don't, if I'm running 5 miles, which is honestly about the most I want to run, I check in and see, okay, I'm at mile 1, made it. And I'm not thinking I need to make it to 5 miles. I'm thinking I need to make it to mile 1. And then I'm thinking I need to make it to mile 2, and so on and so on. And then all of a sudden, I am at mile 5. And I think that that's really the only way that you can run a marathon, that you can run life. Obviously, in life, we have a lot of end goals, you know, the marriage, the kids, the perfect job, the new house, all of these things. And if that's all you're shooting for, you're going to miss out on a lot of stuff, because not only can it feel overwhelming to get to that when you're starting at 0, but you're also missing out on all of the great stuff around you, all the stuff that we talked about, the beautiful sights, the people cheering you. Yeah. There's so much to take in at every single step of the journey, and it just makes it easier too.
For sure. And on my closing note on this enduring life, I ran that marathon and used the ammo of everything that I've endured in my life to fuel that. Like, it wasn't just something that I could just do. It was like, yeah, I'm physically fit, but I didn't just be like, oh, I'm going to run this marathon. Like, there were moments where you have to think about yourself and think about the things that you've done in your past to like help you push through what you're going through now. And that itself has helped me endure anything. It makes me feel almost limitless in the things that I could do. After accomplishing this, I was like, wow, I don't feel like there is anything that could hold me back from doing whatever I want to do. And this is proof to that. And if anything, I excelled at that even completely, but it didn't come from just me being able to excel. It came from me going through a bunch of horrible, shitty things and getting past those shitty things and still choosing to do better. That got me here. Yeah. And it all had to do with sucking it up and looking forward and keep pushing and striding to the end goal.
And like you said, you ran a marathon. Like, there aren't that many people who can say they ran a marathon. You can do anything.
Anything you want.
Yeah.
You can. Our listeners can.
Yep.
Everyone listening, you specifically can do this.
Yeah.
So stick to it. Endure. Do it together.
Yeah.
Fix that mindset. Take it day by day.
Take it day by day, one step at a time.
Win those goals, small victories, and eventually those small victories will lead to a bigger victory. And then you can keep changing, evolving, and being the better version of yourself for those around you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
good job. Congratulations,
thank
Julio.
you. It's
very proud of you.
A big accomplishment. In my opinion, a lot of other people are more proud than I am. Afterwards, I was like, should I be as proud as these people are? Because I'm just like, okay. And other people are like, oh my God, like giving me hugs and everything. Yeah. I'm like, okay, I guess I should be this proud. But yeah, good episode, good chat, and subscribe.
Yeah, keep running that race. Give us a like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you next time.
Yep. Love y'all. Bye.